All right, guys, welcome to your video lecture all about air masses. Just to kind of, again, go over how to do these notes. Apologies, my little sister. So you're going to go to Earth and Environmental. As always, we are going to go to Modules. You will see your air mass notes assignment come up. Just a reminder, after you finish these notes and turn them in, you also have a small quiz to do. It's 8 points, 2 questions, not very difficult. You're welcome, and I suggest using your notes to help you check your knowledge to see if you understood what we are studying today. So you'll use this lecture to complete the following set of video notes electronically. Open the following guided notes document. So we'll click the document. And again, you're going to have to go over here to these little dots and it's going to say download, but yours is going to be in the dots. So you'll download it. And when it downloads, it's going to download onto your computer and if I was doing this on my Dell, you would see it, but it's going to download onto your computer right here at the very bottom of your screen. You're going to click that and it'll open it up in a page like this where you can actually edit and type in the documents. Saving has been a little bit of an issue for us. So I would like you, if you can't figure out how to save it, just take your screenshot from here. Remember, it's the Windows key and the print screen key together on a Dell computer. It is your Windows key and your print screen on your Chromebooks, and it is Command-Shift-3 on a MacBook to screenshot, and you can turn in that screenshotted picture for credit of the assignment. Make sure that you're keeping up with these pictures, and because they are your notes, so this is what you're going to use when you take your test in a week or so. So make sure you're keeping up with these and just knowing what you're writing. All right, good. So that was the housekeeping business. Let's get into our notes. It's not going to take us very long today. Here we go. So we're starting right over here, and then we'll move up to here, and then we'll do this map, and then we'll be done. So let's go. Present. So air masses. Basically, they are big floating sections of air. Once an air mass is formed, it is moved by global winds. In the United States, the global winds, such as the prevailing westerlies, tend to move air masses west to east. That's why we get our weather west to east, because that's the way our wind is moving. If we were up in latitude, we would be in the easterlies and it'd be going east to west. But alas, we are in the westerly dominating our air mass, or the westerly area, the westerly section for the wind. When we talk about wind in a couple days, you'll understand a little bit better, but our winds generally move from west to east. Awesome. So air masses, again, they're basically big floating sections of air. You can't see them because you can't see air. I'm looking for my section in my book just to read you a little bit more about air masses before we get going too far into this. Yesterday we learned, by the way, all about our different layers of the atmosphere. Again, it goes troposphere closest to the Earth, then stratosphere, then mesosphere, then thermosphere, and exosphere. Our ionosphere is a bonus layer. It is within those little, it's within the different sections. So there are 3 layers of ionosphere. I just want you to know that it happens and it's there. Still looking for my, there we go. So air masses are large bodies of air that move across land, bringing in weather. The type of weather depends on where the air mass developed. For example, if the air mass developed over warm water, it will bring warm, humid air. So we're going to learn about these air masses, and then tomorrow we're going to learn about fronts, but today with our air masses. Again, they're basically large bodies of air that move across the land, bringing weather. So with knowing where the air mass formed, you can predict the weather that's going to happen as the air mass passes over different areas. We have 4 types of air masses. Continental tropic air masses. We denote that with a C lowercase and a capital T. When a continental tropical air mass passes over an area, it's going to bring hot air because it was formed in the tropical region of the Earth, and it's going to bring dry air because it was formed over a landmass. In contrast, we also have our continental polar air mass. We denote that with a lowercase c and a capital P. Because, again, it formed over land, we're going to have very dry air in this air mass, but it's going to be very cold because it developed in our areas of higher latitude, like our polar regions or Canada or our Arctic regions. So those are two types of continental air masses. I want you to start associating the word continental with dry and land. Continental is land, so it's dry, and tropical with hot, and polar with cold. We have two types of warm, and there's a typo here, this should say moist. So our next type of air mass is called a maritime tropical. We denote that with a lowercase m and a capital T. When these air masses pass over a region, they will typically bring warm air because they are formed over tropical regions, again, same as our continental, but they're going to bring moist air because it was formed over an ocean or a sea. Mary means sea, so this will be moist, warm air. And lastly, our maritime polar is going to bring cold, dry, or warm, wet, cold, wet air. Again, that's a typo. I can fix it so that we all understand and know what's going on here. We denote our maritime polar air masses with a lowercase m and a capital P for polar. Again, maritime polar brings cold, wet air to a region that it passes over. Awesome. So the way that these air masses interact with one another is what actually causes fronts, which we're going to learn about tomorrow. But now I'm going to take you to a map, and we are going to predict together what type of air mass would form over that region. Excuse me. So we're starting with the pink one at the top. What kind of air mass do you think would form over the ocean region? And in our, remember, the equator is somewhere down here, so this is close to the pole. So we would have a continental, I'm sorry, I guess there's a continent up there I forgot about. A continental polar air mass right here, because there's more to the land up there, the Arctic. Though I do think that is kind of a debatable picture, so I would not put a picture like that on the test. So if a continental polar air mass was coming along in here in Canada, we would expect to see cold before the polar air, and it would also be dry air because it is continental and is going over the land. Next, our purple. So what type of air mass do you think formed right there? Hopefully you said maritime polar, so this is out in the sea that it formed. So we label it maritime. Is going to bring moist air, but it is going to be cold because it was formed in a polar region, meaning it's cold. So it's cold, moist air. Moving on to our light blue one now. What type of air mass do you think was formed right there? I hope you said continental polar again, although that is a little bit debatable, especially because it looks like it's coming over the Atlantic Ocean. So if it was truly formed in the continent, say maybe up here in the Maine region, and it moved its way towards the Midwest, it would bring with it dry because it was formed over a continent, and cold because it was formed in a polar region, air. Now our teal one down here, what do you think this would be? Ooh, we went too fast. Hopefully you would say maritime tropical because it was formed over the ocean right here. So that's why we call it maritime. If it's formed over ocean or water, we're going to expect moist air. And because it was formed in a more tropical region, we are going to assume that this will bring with it warm, moist air. Now for our green one, we said that this is a continental tropic tropical, so we could imagine that South America was down here being formed, or being down here. So as this air mass is being formed over the continent, it'll accumulate dry air, but because it's near the equator region, it will be warm. That is why we labeled it tropical. So as the air mass passes over a region, we would expect to see dry, warm air in the region. Second to last one, our orange. I hope you would say that that is maritime. It's definitely forming over the ocean right here with our arrows. Maritime tropical, because it is again near that equator. Maritime means wet, tropical means warm, so we would expect to see wet, warm air come along with this air mass. And lastly, we have a maritime polar. We'll say that this air mass formed over the upper Pacific Ocean right here. As it formed over the ocean, it brought in a lot of moisture, so we would expect to see moist air. But again, because it is further away from the equator, we would label this a polar air mass, meaning that it's bringing with it wet, cold air. Wonderful. So to do still. So I need you to take a screenshot of these notes. Also, the other blanks that you have in your box are north, never, north, eat, east, soggy, south, west, waffles. So put our compass in there so we orientate ourselves. And then these are generalizations of air masses. That's your last box down here. All right, so you need to finish those, turn them into Canvas. You can either save that PDF or take a screenshot. Sometimes taking a screenshot is going to be easier. Make sure you're keeping these in a easy to find place so that you can use them on your test. I suggest making a Google Drive folder for these. And then you also have to take that air masses quiz on Canvas. Again, 2 questions. One of them are matching. So I'm going to ask you to label some of these air masses and where they form. And then also I have one question for you about the weather conditions that are associated with the air masses. But that is all you have to do today. If you have any questions, email me. Goodbye.